The bear approached the rustic cabin's open front porch as Joe and his German Shepherd were enjoying an early morning together. The massive creature, nearly 400 pounds, steadily gazed at the two as it picked up pace and continued in their direction. Its eyes glowed with death as it approached the porch. Joe, frozen in fear and disbelief, gazed at the animal, astonished, and marveled over the sheer mass of the creature, the way its muscle and fat shifted as it moved, and how quickly it was able to walk and cover ground, yet so quiet, so stealthy. Before Joe could react, the German Shepherd dashed down the steps and onto the ground level with the bear. Hair standing up on its back, the dog barked viciously, but maintained distance from the intruder. The bear stopped in its tracks and set its focus on the dog, and brought death with it. What's up, guys? Iceman here. So this one hits a bit close to home because it's a story about a young man and his German Shepherd who had a very unfortunate and fatal encounter with a black bear. I actually have a German Shepherd myself, and she's extremely loyal. And I know that the last video I covered had to do with a young woman who had small little doggies, and they didn't really help so much when a bear encountered them on the trail. In fact, they may have even caused her death. But nonetheless, things go quite differently here, and it's quite moving and horrifying at the same time, in my opinion. But before I get into it, I'd like to thank you guys for all your support on this channel, and welcome to all my new subscribers. If you will, like the video, subscribe to the page, and hit the bell so you're notified next time I post a video. And if you want to support me further, you can become a patron or a channel member. Links in the description below. And blessings to you guys who support me. You make these videos possible. So let's get into this chilling tale. Joe was a young, adventurous man, filled with ambition and desire to live self-sustainably in northern Ontario. He just recently acquired a remote cabin just 10 miles outside of Cochrane, Canada, and was planning to continue his life as an internet entrepreneur, living with only his German Shepherd, alone in solitude, in search of a life filled with nature and peace. I could hear this thud, this vibration on the ground. Then there was this bear coming towards me. The bear tussled with Joe's dog as the man stood up, spilling his coffee, not knowing how to safely react. "Ike, get out of there!" he screamed, but to no avail. The bear was determined and ruthlessly fought the dog, digging up dirt and grass, and with ease, the bear tackled the dog to the ground, hurling it over its shoulder, only to face it again as the dog caught its bearings. And before the dog could charge again, the bear lurched at it and took it to the ground, biting and clawing viciously. With such fierce speed and tenacity, Joe knew this formidable foe could not be defeated without additional help. He ran into his cabin and slammed the door behind him, leaving the growls and whelps and screeches behind. But they didn't last long. With no sign of the dog, Joe noticed the bear on his deck, standing on its hind legs, looking in through the screen windows. It took massive whiffs of air, filling its lungs, searching for a scent of the frantic and vulnerable 30-year-old young man. Joe scrambled in the cabin, tripping over the coffee table and skidding up his elbow and leg, and the bear instantly began ripping the screen to pieces, tearing it off the windows, and lurching in after him. He started rushing the window, breaking the window and chipping off wood beside the window, Joe stated to the media. I didn't know what else to do but run. I ran through the porch door from which I came and could feel the ground of the cabin shake as the bear relentlessly charged after me. I could hear it snorting and huffing. It came at me full force. He knocked me down and I covered my head. He took my shoulder apart. Then he peeled the skin off my head and started biting on my skull. I could feel his teeth rubbing against my skull. I was just screaming. I could feel my flesh being pulled by his teeth. John Kaplanis of the Northwestern Ontario Sportsmen Alliance had this to say about black bears. From a public safety standpoint, black bears are an unpredictable wild animal. They're not the cuddly little teddy bears we see on television. Joe thought his time was done as the bear ravaged and mangled his body only yards outside his newly attained cabin. He thought he was going to die that day. The snarls and rips and tears the bear caused to his flesh, the spilled blood, the lack of sight and ability to move his arm. But fortunately for him, two young women who were driving by, searching for a campsite in the area, noticed the commotion. They saw the bear on top of Joe, destroying his body in broad daylight. So they drove up to the animal, slamming on their horn, yelling and screaming at it from inside the car. Out of nowhere, these two ladies showed up in a car. After that, the bear ran away. I don't know who they were. They just showed up out of nowhere. The young women rushed Joe to a nearby hospital, and he had this to say about them. The women that saved me, I don't know them. I would like to know them, to meet them. If you meet them, you thank those angels for me. They are my angels. Without them, I wouldn't be alive. Joe received over 300 stitches to sew him back together. Apparently, upon the initial sight of the bear, Joe grabbed some pots and pans and would just yell and scream at it, trying to scare the thing away. The dog and the bear were wrestling in front of him, and all he could hear, according to him, was howling and banging, howling and banging. And then the next thing he knows is he sees the bear dragging the dog toward the brush. And then within minutes, he noticed the bear charging the window at the back of his cabin. Apparently, the massive bear easily broke the glass and shades away from the window. And to Joe's surprise, the 400-pound creature squeezed itself through the window. The way he explained it was the bear balled up a little bit, blasted through the window, and expanded back while in the house, blowing up, making itself big and hulking, and continued its pursuit. The cabin he was in was tiny. It was only 8 by 16 feet, and he knew he didn't have a chance in there, so that's when he decided to exit the cabin. As he was running as fast as he could, the bear even still managed to circle around him and threw him into a ditch. And that's when it began peeling the skin off of his head. Joe claimed that he was screaming for help, saying, "Oh dear God, don't let me die like this. Don't let my family find me like this." Joe claimed that there was a sudden break in the attack, giving him the opportunity to curl up into a little ball. But doing so exposed his shoulder and his armpit to the bear, and the bear right away just began chewing on that, chewing and pulling and chewing and pulling, as Joe explained it. Joe claimed that a few times the bear attempted to roll him back over, trying to expose his stomach so that he could pull his guts out. Apparently, Joe claimed that he did try to fight back, but all he managed to do was jam his thumb into the bear's eye. I just kept kicking and screaming. I was trying to protect my head because I knew if my brain was to leak, I would have been history. It's not something you can control. All of a sudden, death has come upon you. It's like somebody has bolted you to the ground. Joe said in an interview regarding the attack, Joe claimed that the bear really took its time on him. He claimed that its whole face was covered in blood, and the attack realistically lasted 3 or 4 minutes. He claimed that the bear switched back and forth from his shoulder to his skull, and then began thrashing at his sides. Joe said that it was just a mad creature. He claimed that the bear smelled like dead animals, or like something you left in the fridge for a very long time. It was when the bear was on top of him, biting his head after a few minutes, that Joe knew he was going to die. He claimed that he gave up fighting, that he just physically couldn't do it anymore. He lost so much blood and energy. But then he just looks around and sees the car pull over, and the bear saw it as well, so it ended up running away from the sight of it. And Joe just stood up and ran toward the women, screaming, "Please help me." Joe claims that he thanks God for giving him another chance, but he can't get the image of the bear chipping at his skull out of his head. He said that he just keeps hearing it growling at him, tearing pieces of his flesh, and just seeing his flesh fall right off. And the bear's breathing heavily and licking up all the blood. Apparently, the German Shepherd that he had was very new to him, as his brother is a breeder of German Shepherds, and his brother said to Joe, "You really need a big dog up there, just in case." So Joe and the German Shepherd only bonded for a few days, and the dog died protecting his life. The bear was shot down by authorities, and Joe ended up having a relatively decent recovery. Jeez, what do you guys think about that story? It's crazy how that dog was quite new to him. He only had it in his possession for only a few days, and it gave up his life for Joe. It's just really telling to me how loyal, in my opinion, German Shepherds can be. I was actually just thinking about maybe getting another one, because the one that I have is a beautiful animal, and I feel like she'd lay down her life for me. But she's 7 years old, going on 8, and I know it's going to be very difficult losing her if that day comes. So I almost just wanted to get another one, just to have it there, and to help her in protecting our house. But damn, what's crazy is this bear was just so determined to devour Joe. Apparently, it just dragged the dog away after killing it and decided to continue pursuing Joe. For whatever reason, it really wanted to kill and eat this guy, or just eat him rather. And that's the thing about black bears. It seems that this is very much so an ongoing theme, where the truth is, they don't kill, they just eat. And if given the opportunity and all things align, they will start eating you. That's what's so freaky about this situation. But what do you guys think about it? Do you have a dog? And do you think it would lay down its life for you in such a circumstance? Personally, that's why I like to always have protection on me wherever I am, because I want to be able to help my dog even if she's helping me. But I know that these things can be so unpredictable, and very often can be the case where we are just simply not prepared. But damn, I really appreciate you guys for sticking through with this video. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it in the comments below. Again, if you will, like this video, subscribe to the page, and stay tuned for more chilling tales from the Iceman.